right, so again, thank you all for joining us this afternoon. Today's presentation is franchising and self-employment as a career option. Given the difficulties in landing a job in today's tough job market, you may want to expand your options to consider business ownership and franchises for your next step. But what is involved? We're going to learn the joys and realities of business ownership in this workshop. Starting and running your own business is not for everyone. What should potential entrepreneurs consider before they start their own business? Suzanne Gray will lead us through an exploration of self-employment as a viable career path. Issues she will address include self-employment and business ownership, the pros and the cons, how to finance a business, are you really cut out for running your own business, why do most small businesses fail and how you can avoid that, why consider a franchise, and how a business coach can help you on your journey. Suzanne has been coaching people who are exploring franchises since 2005. Her area of specialty is helping clients research attributes about franchise systems and learning which franchise would be the best fit for them and why. She walks clients through a process to clarify their unique personal goals and vision while educating clients about franchises. I'm going to skip a few things here in the interest of time. So Suzanne, while a franchisee with the Entrepreneur Source, received their Outstanding Leadership Award. And back in another life, not too long ago, she previously co-founded and facilitated the wonderful Career Transitions of Greater Boston, which was a weekly workshop for job seekers for over 5 years. So all 20 of us, let's give a big virtual round of applause for Suzanne for joining us here today. And Suzanne, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Robert. Is it okay? Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great, excellent. So thanks for that introduction. It's a little bit different these days, isn't it, doing these types of things via video and webinars and Zoom. You know, I think that we all have had a lot of shifting lately. And, you know, I know out in the job search world, there's a lot of shifting as well. So we're going to talk today focusing mostly on self-employment and franchising as a career option. But just for the audience, so you know, I have worked with people in career transition since 2005, and so I'm very well aware of the job market and its cycles. And it's an interesting place we find ourselves in, and it's tough to network, and networking is how we find jobs. So I applaud you all for coming to this Tewksbury session, because even though we're virtual, we still need to network as much as we can. That is still the way people are finding jobs. Okay, so I'm hoping that there we go. I can move my screen. I just have to get something out of the way here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about career options, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how COVID-19 has affected small businesses. People ask that of me a lot, so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about an introduction to self-employment and franchising, and then Q&A. Okay, need to be able to go to my next screen. There we go. All right, this is a little introduction about myself. I call myself the poster child of portfolio careers, and not everybody knows what a portfolio career is. It's when you have different avenues that make up your revenue stream. So I've been a career business coach for 14 years doing the franchise business coaching. I'm also an outplacement coach with a company called Career Curve. So I work with a company, I'm a 1099, basically for them. I do career coaching with people who have been laid off. A co-founder and facilitator of Career Transitions of Greater Boston. We already talked about that. Co-owner of Cape Cod Mosquito Squad. My husband, in 2014, invested in Mosquito Squad at Cape Cod. It's a franchise, and there's many reasons why we went down that path, but I just want to tell you a little bit about that. I help him with management type of decisions, with HR issues. I'm the hiring and firing person. I also am involved in a lot of the larger operational or marketing decisions that are made. And we manage that business with two other key, so there's four key people that are in the management, on the management team. And this year, we started in 2014, and this year we have 10 trucks, 25 employees, over 1,600 seasonal customers. And those seasonal customers each pay an average of $700 a season to use the services of it's tick and mosquito remediation on Cape Cod. So I guess I use that as an example of, 6 years ago we didn't know where we were going to be with Mosquito Squad, but here we are, and it puts us in a position that we have options. We could sell the business, we could grow the employees that we have so that we could run it semi-absentee. We could keep it and just keep running it. So it's a very liberating feeling when you get to the point where you can start to make your own decisions about how you want to spend your time and how you want to have your revenue stream. So if we were in person, I'd say, so why do I put up the next bullet, co-owner and property manager for rental properties? Why do I even put that up there? I do this because as job seekers, you're not just your value is not just what you do in that job. You also have other value that you bring to the table by doing other types of activities. Basically, some of those properties, 3 of those properties are on Cape Cod, and so I'm sort of the hospitality industry. I had to learn a whole bunch of things about COVID and anti-COVID this summer as a result of managing those properties. But it just adds another dimension. So I suggest that to you as job seekers, that you're not just one-dimensional, that you bring other things to the table. And prospective employers will pick up on that, and it gives them another conversation to talk to you about, or they can see your value in different ways. So I also do pro bono community work. I'm chair of the planning board in Tewksbury, New Hampshire. I also currently chair the economic development committee there. Thankfully, that one's not too busy. And I did time in corporate America, 20 years of property casualty insurance. Okay, it's enough about me. Let's keep going. Okay, so COVID, it has turned our world upside down. I have up here on the left side of the screen the unemployment rate, which I get from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the website that you see at the bottom of the screen. And Mass is at about 14.5%, New Hampshire about 11.8%. It's actually been decreased in the unemployment rate over the past month or so, but it's still pretty high. So how has COVID turned our lives upside down? More employees are going to work from home, right? Which is great for some people. Some people, I think, have problems focusing or working from home. Many children will be homeschooled. The other thing we're seeing, I live in New Hampshire and Cape Cod, so the other thing we're seeing on the Cape is that kids are registering for school on Cape Cod. Their families are going to their second home and registering their kids to go to school there. And there's many reasons for that, but I'm sure you can imagine why. They want to get out of the city, and they feel like it's a safer place for them to live. Of course, unemployment rates have skyrocketed. Contract work will again become the norm. I don't know how many on this webinar today have been through the whole 2008-2009 scenario where during that economic downturn, we had a lot more contract workers. So I'm seeing a lot of that going on out there now too, because employers are hesitant to hire somebody permanent full time until they see what's going to actually happen with this COVID. So reduced and eliminated benefits. We're seeing some of that. Mergers and acquisitions, we're seeing that. But even just with the airlines, and I mean, we're going to see a lot of mergers. And that's going to eliminate jobs, as we know, because we've lived through this before. I read an article that said travel and hospitality may not recover until 2023. Really, that's a long road there that they've got. And our values, our language, and our behavior has greatly changed. You know, I was just in Boston, and everybody outside, everybody is wearing masks. And throughout Massachusetts, everybody is wearing masks everywhere they go. Our behavior has really changed, and it's understandable why. It's just it's startling, I guess. And I hope that we find a vaccine for this, or that they mass produce a vaccine for this. But until we do, this is what we're going to look like, and it has turned our world upside down. Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the changes that we've seen in small businesses due to COVID. Some segments have done really well. The home improvement area, right? Staycations, I call them, instead of vacations. So people are staying home. But with that, they want to do more to their homes. So they're buying furniture, they're fixing up, the family room and the den, and they're also making areas so everybody can work from home. We're doing a lot of home improvement. Essential businesses worked and were in business even when everything else was shut down. And there's a long list of essential businesses. You can find it on the Massachusetts.gov website. And so those businesses did very well. Private schools and tutoring, of course, are going to flourish due to COVID, right? Only makes sense. Signs, like how many 6-foot distance signs have we seen? So sign manufacturing, senior care, of course, cleaning services, anything in the healthcare industry, security services, they're all doing very, very well. So I wanted to just also talk a little bit about the CARES Act. And I don't know if anybody has followed this or not, but in the CARES Act, there's a provision for SBA loans if you currently have a small business administration loan, or if you're going to get a small business administration loan, it has to close before the end of September unless they extend that. But they will actually give you 3 months of loan forgiveness, which means you're not paying principal or interest for 3 months. It's forgiven. The government is saying you don't owe that, because they're trying to help these small businesses chug along and keep going. The government knows that, especially SBA, knows that small businesses are what makes this economy run. PPP grants and loans, those were for the payment protection program. That was a program put in place to reimburse employers for hiring people who were unemployed during the pandemic. And basically, it started with essential businesses, because those were the ones that started first, but it did go into restaurants and other businesses. So that was an application that provided the economy with a nice boost. EIDL grants, those are grants based on the number of employees that you have in your business. So those were all provisions of the CARES Act, and you can go into the SBA website and learn more about each of those. The other thing that happened is that good franchisors out there, the home office of the franchise company, they actually help their owners to survive and thrive through this by helping the franchisees with the ins and outs of the CARES Act, how to get a PPP loan, providing them with information of how to best protect their employees and their customers during COVID. Franchisors have done a lot for helping their franchisees through this. Okay, so we're going to now switch back to talking about really your job search and thinking about a career change. So what is a tour of duty? I first heard this just after the 2008-2009 recession. This was when employees were hired for 1, 2, or 3 years to work on a specific project. And when that project ended, they could move to a new project or not. And workers sort of became free agents and became more entrepreneurial. This is, I think, what we're going to be seeing a lot of again now. And anybody that's out in the job-seeking world, this is really a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not just I'm going to get a job and that's going to be the end of it. We're going to have to really think carefully about our career and how we can best develop within that job to keep that job. And then I mentioned a book at the bottom. It's a pretty, detailed book on things that gain from disaster. In other words, when we get hit with a negative situation, who comes out on top and how do you develop that resiliency? Okay, so what are your career options? You can continue to look for a job. You could start in an independent business or become a consultant if you have an area of specialty. You could purchase an established independent business for sale. Or you could look at system-based businesses, which are franchises, licensed businesses, distributorship. And there are resales in those areas as well. I've helped several people with resale businesses. A client right now is looking at a sign business that's resale. Okay. So I thought that this was an interesting quote from Dalai Lama. People take different roads, and they seek fulfillment and happiness. Just because they're not on the road, on your road, does not mean that they are lost. So, if you are at this point at a crossroads with your career, it's a good idea to think about your different options. And when you're doing that, sometimes people around you might say, stay in your lane, or why would you want to think about that? But, if it's the time for you to start thinking about something differently, I encourage you to do that. I encourage people to take the opportunity to think differently about your career and what success means to you and what does that look like. Okay. Starting your own independent business, to succeed, you must have a unique or marketable product or service, ability to create or implement a business plan, define your target market and identify how to best reach them, the ability to convert a prospect to a client, so that, kind of doing that sales piece of it, capital and expertise, willingness to go it alone, and withstand the time, both emotionally and economically, to build the business. Starting up your own independent business is a longer ramp up than it is if you are looking at a franchise, because you're starting from scratch and you've got to build the whole thing out. It's the right path for many people. I don't discourage that. If that's something you're thinking about, still get in touch with me, because I can help you, lead you to resources that are free or low cost to help you open your own business. Okay, so if that's something you're thinking about, don't shy away from talking with me. Okay, looking at an existing independent business, this is kind of an interesting piece. People think it's a lower risk. It's really a lower perceived risk, because there is still some risk in purchasing an existing independent business. Existing customers, you have existing customers, but sometimes they leave, when that owner of that business leaves. You have immediate cash flow, so that's a plus, right? So, there's pluses and minuses, established track record and reputation, but the records may be incomplete. And, it's unfortunate, but there were times when a business owner may have kind of two sets of books. They have what they show the IRS, and then they have the real numbers. I remember a woman that I was talking to years ago. She was looking at a laundromat that was for sale, and the owner of the laundromat said, "Well, I put the quarters in my pockets, and my kids take the quarter. It's a cash business, that type of thing. Like, okay, that's what the books say." And this was not a franchise. This was an independent business. And so it's really hard to figure out what's the real value of that, right? In a franchise, everything gets reported to the franchisor, so you don't have that. That's not an issue at all. The business may be at its peak, and you may be paying a premium for the cash flow. And it's hard to determine the true value. I've already covered that. So another option is to look at a franchise. And just for basics here, franchising refers to the method of practicing and using another's perfected business concept. So somebody else has started this business, worked the bugs out of the business, and then they develop systems around that. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But the franchisee is granted the right to market a product or service under a marketing plan or system using the trademark name, logo, and advertising of the franchisor. So let's dig a little bit deeper into this. It's not just about burgers and subs. There's many different types of business models and ownership, and I'm going to get to the breakdown of that in just a minute. And you don't have to be a millionaire to afford the investment. Funding vehicles. There were funding vehicles. I was just talking about the SBA has some really great options right now for funding. Also, people commonly roll over their 401k, part of their 401k investments, invested in a business. There's a way to do that without incurring any taxes or penalties. And there's also, utilizing other types of funding sources, the ones that we know about, home equity lines, those types of things. But finding the right franchise business is a counterintuitive process. And by that I mean, I don't recommend that people drive by a business and say, I want to own that business. It's really about, it starts with understanding more about what your goals are. What are you trying to achieve? What do you want your life to look like? What are your financial goals? And so, it's not the way the best way to go about this is not how you think it would be. It's really about looking inside yourself. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of my clients here. This is Andy Logan. He invested in a business called Key Renter Properties. He manages properties. He's on the North Shore. He's up in, it's not really the North Shore. It's, Haverhill and that little area. Lawrence, Haverhill, Lowell, plus a whole bunch of outlying towns there, Andover and North Andover. So he actually manages properties for other people. So somebody owns a house and they want to rent it out to somebody. He just takes it over and he does everything for them, and he gets paid for that. And he hires people if he needs to, the carpenter or plumber, etc. It's a home-based business, flexible hours, and networking. That's networking to get your clients. That's just Andy Logan is just an example of a sole distributor business. There's lots of them out there. So a service business is something that's similar to my husband's business. You can see my husband there in the photograph there in the middle with some of his employees in front of the mosquito squad truck. The investment level on those types of businesses is usually 60 to 100, 125,000. These are businesses like handyman businesses, painting businesses, residential or commercial cleaning businesses, damage mitigation. I could go on. There's a lot of franchises in this space. They're either home-based or Class B office-based, mobile business, strong marketing programs. They're driving the customers. The strong marketing programs are driving the customers to those franchisees. The marketing makes the phone ring, and you've got to have good customer service on the other end of that phone. But, once the phone rings, you've got a customer who wants your product or service. They do have employees, so you've got to be okay managing employees. They're very easy to expand, and they're very COVID-friendly. In COVID-friendly, what I mean by that is that a lot of times these businesses are working outside somebody's home. They're painting the exterior of the home. They're washing the deck. They're doing landscaping, etc. So as long as you do precautions with your employees, you don't run the risk of any customer interaction with COVID. So there's a lot in that space of the service business. Small box. I think you can see the photograph down in the lower right-hand corner. That's a client of mine, Lisa LaRocca. She invested in a clothing boutique business in the Boston area, and these are typically retail businesses. Oftentimes, the owners work in the business day to day. There are set hours that business needs to be open. The franchisor will say, "We want you open between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., whatever because they want the consistency throughout the franchise. Customers come to your location, and potential property ownership. One way to build equity and wealth is to own the property where your business is. So you have an entity that owns the real estate, okay, and then your business pays that entity rent. And so you've got a tenant that is going to pay the rent, right? That makes sense. Okay, so investor manager, this is my client, Steve Tebow. He owns 6 Great Clip locations in Rhode Island and New Hampshire. I think we've all heard of Great Clip. I think they're at 46 or 4,800 locations across the country. Very large franchise. So brick and mortar, there's not a job for Steve. He's a semi-absentee owner. He manages that business or oversees that business from his phone, basically. He will can look on his phone and see how long the wait times are for a haircut. He can see, how many haircuts they've done today. See everything, how much shampoo they've sold. He has managers in the stores that hire and deal with the day-to-day activities that go on in those locations. It easily adapts to multi-units, as you tell. You just, repeating the same thing. But the location may be a factor in success, where it's located, right? So strategic is for those who want to have a larger type of organization, area regional developer or master developer. You can see I've got a map of New England on the right there, and typically a regional developer will have all the franchisees in the New England region will report to that person. So they have multiple revenue streams. They're a coach and a mentor to franchisees to help them be more successful. But it also is an investment, as you can see. It's a large geographic area, and they may or may not own a franchise unit themselves. Now, I'm just going over this very quickly because we don't have a lot of time. There's much more information to dig into on each of these different areas, but I just wanted to try and give you guys an overview because oftentimes people don't know all the different ins and outs of franchises. We really just think it's McDonald's and Burger King. Okay, so let's talk about why franchisees are more successful than other business owners. The franchisor provides training, guidance, initial and ongoing. They approve its image and product and service and operating system, business and operational systems, marketing and sales power. So let me just tell you a little bit about this, really. What do you get with a franchise? That's really what we're asking here, right? They will help you with SEO optimization so that you come up very high on the Google rank when somebody Googles you. They help you with your social media. It's a plug and play for a website. Just plug in your information. The website's already all created. They update it for you, etc. They provide you all the marketing collateral. They have national accounts oftentimes where there's an organization that provides a national, services across the country. Say you're a painting company, all right? So some painting companies have agreements with Rite Aid stores and other national chains. So if you're a member of that particular franchise that has that relationship, you've automatically got some commercial customers. So here's the thing, is that they keep you within the guardrails. You can do you're running your own business, but they're providing the system for you. Operating system, the marketing system, financial, hiring, handbook, you name it. And not all franchises are exactly the same. That's how I help my clients, though, is really drilling down and seeing, the value that a particular franchise is providing. But, this situation is really important, especially in times of COVID. I saw how much the franchisors were helping their franchisees through the COVID, and it was really amazing. The amount of information, and they hired attorneys for help and specialists, and I could just go on and on. It was really a team effort. Okay, so in the introduction, Robert mentioned why small businesses don't work. So we all have heard about the failure rate of small businesses. And when they're talking about that, they're talking about independent businesses, not franchises. But this book, The Entrepreneurial Myth, I know, say that 3 times fast, right? Written by Michael Gerber. In there, he says, you always hear, do what you know and love, and it'll bring you success. What he says is that's not how most businesses are successful. Because you're a chef and you're a great chef does not mean that you know how to run a business like a restaurant. You could, and could be very successful at it, but it's not necessarily the same thing. Hairdresser, passionate about styling hair, but may not be that great of a business owner. Same with a mechanic. So I recommend that anybody thinking about business ownership take a look at this book. It's a quick read, and it'll help you figure out why businesses are not successful. But spoiler alert, I'll just kind of tell you the discussion around it. What Michael Gerber talks about, is that a business needs systems in place so that you can have other people run parts of your business, right? Just like I said, Kurt and I, we have a team, management team. He and I don't do everything. In the Mosquito Squad business, there's no way we could. So having that team is real important. And that's one of the things that Michael Gerber talks about, and putting systems in place to run your business. Okay. So I get this question a lot. Is a business right for me? So I'm going to go through this checklist. It's, this is not to say yes or no, right or wrong. It's really to start you thinking about a different mindset. Owning a business is very different from working in a job, but it's not for everyone. It's hard work, and it takes a lot of effort. So, ideal candidate for business ownership or a franchise, entrepreneurial drive, general business skills, so you can fall back on what you've done in the past or fall back on what you know. Willing to follow a system. You need to promote and network your business, or make sure the franchise has a great marketing system, right? If it's your own business, you're going to need to figure out your own marketing system. Evaluate your financial capabilities for business ownership. That's something that we talk about right from the get-go, because the last thing you want to do is to get into a business and then realize that you don't have the financial capability to continue in it. Are you a problem solver or a problem spotter? I'm going to let you guys think about that one for a minute. Do you just say, okay, there's a problem? Or do you say, I see a problem, I'm going to work on how to resolve it? A business owner works on solving problems. A decision maker versus somebody who gets into analysis paralysis. Because if you own a business and you're in analysis paralysis, you're going to be losing out on something else while you're trying to go through those machinations. Okay, are your goals consistent with business ownership? It's a trade-off between the freedom and control that you get in business ownership and steady paycheck. Okay, and I put the steady paycheck in quotes because we just don't know what's going to happen these days, and we don't know how long jobs are going to last. We don't know what the long-term situation is going to be for many of us, anyway. Are you willing to run the business and not be the person who makes the donuts? I know. Well, maybe you're not as old as I am, but there used to be this, the advertisement on TV about Dunkin' Donuts, and the guy was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and making the donuts. Time to make the donuts. Anyway, but that's not what franchises are typically do. You're not. My husband is not out doing all the applications for Mosquito Squad. He has other people that do the technical side of the work for him, and so it's really about running a business, making decisions, and doing that. In a franchise, you do it hand in hand with the franchisor. They're there to help you. But if you're doing it on your own, you need to be making those decisions. But again, to work on the business, not in the business. And do you like to be in charge? Do you like to make decisions? If it's a franchise, will you leverage a franchise's proven system benefits? If you're a maverick, don't even bother to look at franchises, because with a franchise, you're investing in the system and having somebody help you who's been there and done that. If you're not going to take their advice, you don't need to go down that road. Don't waste the money. You still have room for creativity within that, within a franchise model, but they don't want you going off and doing it your own way. Okay. So a franchise or a business should be a vehicle to help you achieve your personal goals. And this is what I often hear what people are looking for when they're talking to me. They want control over their destiny. They want control over their time, freedom, and independence. And by that, I might mean, I want to be able to go to the gym at lunchtime or work out at lunchtime. I want to be able to make my own schedule, those kinds of things. They may want to build and manage a team. I often hear that people are frustrated in the corporate world because they're managing a team that they didn't hire, and they run into difficulties with that. Build equity for yourself instead of for others. Personal and professional satisfaction. That's definitely something I hear a lot about. And make a difference and leave a legacy. Leave a legacy maybe for your kids, maybe a business that your kids could work in or might take over someday. And build equity and enjoy your lifestyle. So I hear those things quite often. So how do I help my clients? 75% of people want to become self-sufficient. Only 5% take action on those dreams. And why is that? And I have to give you the answer because you guys aren't allowed to talk yet. And that's because people are basically frightened of the unknown. They don't want to take the leap. They think it's safer to stay in a job than it is to go out on their own. So I help with that. I help you by clarifying your personal goals, motivators. I use the DISC assessment to look at your soft skills. I help you identify your transferable skills. I help you learn more about self-employment as a career option in general, and whether we talk through whether it will be a good fit for you, or whether something needs to change. Maybe it's not a good fit right now, but maybe it'll be a good fit at another time. I have many clients that I work with, and then they come back to me 2 years later and say, okay, now's a better time for me. And I help you determine if business ownership may be an option for you. And again, that's take the inside-out approach, which I already explained. Learn more about what you're looking for. Okay, so here we are in Q&A. Here's my contact information, and I look forward to your questions. I have not been watching the chat, so I'm sure it's here someplace. Let's see what we got.
I'm here, Suzanne. So first of all, thank you very much. We did have one person have to drop out early. He wanted me to thank you. So folks, I would encourage you to get any comments or questions into the chat. We'll go for about 10 minutes and try to wrap up by 3 o'clock. Michael made a comment about a half an hour ago. I've lost the context a little bit, but he wants to know how you become a consultant.
Oh, okay, sure. So, so with a consultant, if you're going to hang up your own shingle, be an independent consultant, and there's also consultants that are franchises as well. So you could look at consultant roles as a franchisee, or you could look at it to become your own independent consultant. And what you would need to do with the independent consultant is to actually determine where your area of expertise is and look at your target market to determine is there enough of a need the way that I can provide that service, right? There's some work to be done in there, and I have some resources that I could give to you that would help you determine this. But look at what that target market is. Do they need the widget that you're going to be providing, right? Is it of value to them? How much money do you think they would pay for it? Is that something that, first of all, does all that make sense to you with what you're trying to achieve? And then look at how you would reach that target market, how you network in to be able to provide that service that you're trying to provide. And that is a major stumbling block for many when they're looking at consulting type of businesses. Another stumbling block is trying to figure out how much to charge, right? So, but you know what, Michael, if you want to, we can set up a time to talk, and I can just talk you through sort of that whole, the independent side of it, and I could provide the resources for you to talk with further if you want to do it that way. And I could also just talk to you about, hey, here are some franchises that do consulting work as well. And you may want to, even if you want to do an independent consulting business, you may want to look at franchises to see how they set it up. What are they doing? And is that something that you feel like either you'd like to become a franchisee, or is there some kind of learning that you can gain from researching that?
Roy wants to know, is there a website that lists franchisees? Is there like a master list out there, Suzanne?
Well, there are about 6,000 different franchises out there. So if you wanted to just look at a list of franchises, sure, you can Google franchises. I don't think that there's going to be a complete list that comes up, but you could definitely Google it. I'm not sure what you're going to get by that, because it doesn't talk to when you look at that list, you're not looking at what do you do day to day in that business model to make it successful, and then Roy, what skills do I have to make that business successful, right? You're not matching it up to what makes sense for you. You're kind of looking at it from the outside. And it just, most people that do that, it doesn't really work out that well, because it would take you a long time to research franchises that way. But we can talk about it, but certainly Google it. I just don't think it's going to be that helpful for you.
Right. Roy also wants to know, how much is the typical investment for a franchisee?
Most of my clients that I work with invest between $50,000 and $100,000. Most of them, some of them more. Not many too much lower than that. Occasionally I might have a client that invests $35,000 or $40,000. But when we're talking about that investment level, that's all in, right? That's for their training and their marketing materials and everything they need to get their business up and off the ground.
And Susan and Deborah asked the same question. Susan says, thank you for a great session. How long does it typically take to recoup and exceed your initial investment?
Yeah, that actually depends on the type of business it is. Remember when I went through the different business models, the home-based and then the service and then the brick and mortar? So the home-based typically takes less time because you have a lower investment, and but it depends also on how much work you're putting into that business. It's not all the same for everyone, so I guess I hate that answer, but it depends. It depends, and that's what you ask during the research process. So when you're researching franchises, what I suggest that people do, if they're working with me, they certainly do it, you talk with a franchisor, and then you talk to franchisees who've been there and done that and ramped up their businesses. So with that in mind, when there are, I'm sorry, I have a call coming in, so I hope you guys can hear me. So with that in mind, when you're talking to the franchisee, you will ask them, how long did it take you to ramp up the business? What was your initial investment? And they will tell you. They will tell you because they've been sitting in your shoes before where they wanted to know the answers to those questions. It's part of the research, though.
Mike just has a shout out. He says that Career Transitions was a great group and you provided excellent advice. So, Mike, we almost there was almost a time where we stole the group from Burlington. So we almost made that happen. JJ wants to know, how easy or difficult is financing and the various options? Is there usually a lot of initial out-of-pocket costs?
Okay, great. So if you want to go down the road of an SBA loan, the out-of-pocket cost is usually 20 to 25% of the total loan. So if the total loan is $100,000, 20 to 25% would be $20,000 to $25,000. So you need to put your skin in the game. It's just the same as when you get a mortgage on a home. The lender wants your skin in the game, and so that's SBA loan. If you are looking at using your own funds, SBA loans typically take a couple of months to process. I should add that in too. Not a quick process. If you're looking to use your own funds, perhaps roll over 401k or something like that, that will take several weeks to a month. But SBA typically takes 2 months. And sometimes the franchise companies have ways that you can get funding through them too. Sometimes they provide a funding option. So it really, it depends on your financial situation, which way you might want to go to fund the business. But what I find is that most people do several different ways. In other words, sometimes they take some from savings and they get some from another source.
And so JJ had a follow-up question. In general, are franchises easier to get financing for than just a regular startup small business?
They sure are. They sure are, because of the ongoing support and the systems that they have in place to help you be successful. Yep, without a doubt, much easier to get a funding for a franchise. So when we're looking at SBA loans, for example, if you're looking at an SBA loan, typically they have loaned to that franchise before. I mean, so they know a lot about that business model because they've already been down. The banks have already been down this road, and I have financing experts that I refer my clients to that know which bank like what kind of business. I mean, just like anything else, there's specialty areas in banking, and not all banks loan for all businesses. So I help you find, I refer you to somebody that helps you find a bank that wants to loan for that business, and franchises really are much easier to get money for.
It looks like the last question is going to go to Lisa, and Lisa wants to know, can you speak to the pros and cons of multi-level marketing companies?
Yeah, Lisa, that is not my area of expertise, but just anecdotally, I have friends that have done that, and they've done very well in building a big organization underneath them. MLMs are different than franchises, so it's not really my area of expertise, but I do know some people have been very successful with them.
And Ed, let's see here. So Ed doesn't have a question, but it's a comment I'll read. Assume two people have similar skill sets, including education, training, and necessary skills to actually be successful. Person A wants to do it for the money and independence or control. Person B also wants the same and is clear on what they want to do based on an authentic passion for their product or service that provides them a measure of meaning and purpose. My experience with clients is that person B will be their most successful financially and actually enjoy more happiness and self-actualization. Just a thought for consideration. Ed, thanks for sharing. Just so you know, Suzanne, Ed gave a talk to the group a few weeks ago. As my phone keeps ringing, I apologize. All right. So Suzanne, why don't you wrap us up here? Any last words you want to give to the group?
Well, thank you all very much for your participation today, and good to see a couple of familiar faces out there in the group too. I've just been scrolling through and seeing a couple of friends out there. And don't hesitate to reach out to me. I mean, first of all, in a general sense, it doesn't cost anything to work with me. I don't charge you a fee to explore business ownership or franchises. I get paid similar to a recruiter, except that I represent my client, so I represent your interest going through the process. So, I get paid by the franchisor to end up investing in a franchise, but I don't charge you a fee. And so it doesn't hurt to just have a conversation with me, even if you're thinking about opening your own consulting business, even if you're thinking of, I want to I want to start a pottery business. I don't care, I'm here. I have multiple years of experience in this field, and I know a lot of people who would be great resources for you. So reach out, give me a shout. If you like the slides, I'll get them over to you as well.
All right, I think that'll do it. We have more folks. Just a lot of thank yous in the chat, Suzanne. A lot of people are appreciative and grateful for taking the time with us this afternoon. And so, folks, we'll wrap it here. I hope to see folks next week for the storytelling, using storytelling as a technique to get hired. That speaker spoke here last August, did a phenomenal job. I'm sure you'll all enjoy it. It'll be interesting to see how he does this virtually, but it was a very good program. So hope everyone can make next week. And as Suzanne said, feel free to reach out to Suzanne. Doesn't cost you a thing. She'll be happy to get you the slides. I will send the recording tomorrow. And yeah, hope everyone has a great rest of their week. So thank you all so much for coming, and everyone have a good one. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.